Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you are having an amazing day. My name is Shahid, and I will be presenting the current status of our project. Please accept my apologies for not being able to present live here. After the recorded presentation, Fabian will handle the discussion and answer all questions you might have. As you know, our project deals with the accessible reporting of data analysis through interactive data reports. So I will begin with what do we mean by interactive data reports. These reports combine a textual narrative and visualizations through interactive referencing. Here you see an example of one such report. The underlined phrases of text serve as links to various parts of the charts. Hovering over them would highlight the relevant portion of the graphic. These reports explain the insights and let users explore. Finally, they are designed to be consumed by a wider audience. It has been proven by existing studies that interactive referencing between charts and text has many benefits. It can improve information recall and comprehension, especially for people with low visualization literacy. It may also reduce the cognitive burden on the reader that can otherwise overload the reader's working memory, forcing them to switch their attention back and forth to find the references between the two representations. We have divided today's presentation into three parts that relate to the generation of interactive data reports. The first part deals with understanding the ingredients of such reports by taking a closer look at the spatio-temporal stories published in various digital news media outlets. For this purpose, we came up with two research questions. The goal of the first question is to look at the narrative to find out what the prominent insights are, how context or backdrop is blended with them, and how these insights are communicated, both textually and visually. The second question, on the other hand, focuses on the interplay. In particular, we look for what types of links exist between the two media and how they are co-referenced. Also, we were interested to know how and in what sequence are the charts embedded into the narrative. To answer these questions, we analyzed 22 stories, which were collected from 10 well-known digital journalistic sources. The majority of the stories came from three sources: New York Times, 538, and BBC. 12 of the stories were collected on a variety of themes such as culture, economics, politics, science, and health to maximize the diversity of topics. The remaining 10 stories were on a single topic of COVID-19. These stories have the same context, yet they cover various aspects of the pandemic. We divided every story into individual sentences and visualizations. This resulted in almost 1,200 sentences and 118 visualizations for all the stories in our sample collection. The open coding of all the sentences and visualizations resulted in 45 distinct descriptive codes or concepts. These codes could be organized into 3 categories and 12 subcategories. The textual narrative is roughly split into 2 parts. First, the data-driven part that communicates the analysis findings. This part of the text implicitly references various parts of the visualizations. Second part of the text serves as an embedding and either provides structure to the story or adds context. The visualization text linking category refers to either the text elements that appear in the visualization or those sentences in the textual narrative that explicitly refer to the visualizations. Here is an overview of all the descriptive codes along with their frequencies of occurrences. Let's look at different code categories a bit more closely and try to answer the first research question. While it was no surprise that location and time were described very frequently as we focused on geographic narratives, we see that insights closely relate to high-level analysis tasks. They can be grouped into identify, summarize, or compare tasks. For instance, identifying data points that are unique and then describing them individually or as a cluster. Here you see an example of an outlier with respect to both geographic and temporal variables. It describes that California had the highest number of public mass shootings to date. A considerable portion of the text incorporates context behind the story. For example, sufficient background or domain-specific terminology that is needed for understanding the story is included. Here is an example sentence that conveys domain knowledge about inaudible noise in a very simple language. As for the visual communication of insights, we observed that map visualizations were most common. And they were a standard and common way of providing an overview of the geographic data. Going beyond just the geographic variable, animating a map was a way of providing geotemporal overview. However, in our sample collection, maps were mostly limited to a single statistical variable. Extending maps beyond a single variable and to allow comparisons across two or more variables, multiple versions of a similar map can be placed side by side. Small multiples are yet another way of providing temporal comparisons for a variable across many different regions. For example, every country or city can have its own line or area plot on a similar scale. The use of tabular visualizations was also common. Unlike choropleth maps, tables are very flexible and can include uncertainty or distribution of the variable to allow even better comparisons. While most of the visualizations were quite standard and well known in our sample, we also observed the use of some less well known charts. For instance, the use of colored overlapping semicircles on the timeline to provide an overview of two variables. Let's look at how textual and visual representations interplay. We observed that majority of the visualizations in our sample collection include textual elements in them. For example, they include captions, titles, and annotations. It was interesting to note that less well-known visualizations tended to have longer captions and textual annotations. This distribution plot, for example, has a title, subtitle, and a textual annotation that describe what is the main takeaway from the visual. In some cases, textual annotations inside a visualization may explain every part of the visualization. Textual elements inside a visualization not only makes it a self-sufficient unit of information, but also serve as anchor points that are picked up in the text and makes it easier for the reader to quickly go to the related part of the visualization while reading the story. The visualizations are placed close to the text that describes them. This way, they can be easily referenced and do not require any numbering. In some cases, visualizations are introduced before their interpretation. This usually includes the explanation of visual encoding or specific aspects of visual design that may have influenced the data representation. Finally, the use of consistent color to format phrases in the textual narrative according to the visualization is another type of linking we observed. This type of linking can enable quick reading as users can quickly and easily find connection of various parts of the visualization in the text. Grounded in the analysis, we came up with best practices that we believe can be helpful for designers of similar stories. The first is to provide sufficient background information. Since the target audience is broad and diverse for such stories, it is important to include domain-specific terminology in the story so that the readers can easily follow. Second is the use of vernacular or everyday language to describe domain-specific terms or geographical entities. It is also important to describe what is visualized and how it is visualized. For instance, including non-intuitive visual encodings, especially if the visualization might not be familiar for every reader. The position of the visualization also matters in the narrative. The visualization placed next to the text helps the reader better understand the descriptions and avoids unnecessary scrolling. Finally, the addition of textual elements can make the visualization self-explanatory and can hint at specific insights. This project resulted in a research paper at Euroviz this year and is published in Computer Graphics Forum. It was a collaboration with Siming Chen, who was working at Fraunhofer at that time. In the second part, I will present an approach that uses a natural language interface to ask questions about historical people. It provides a more direct and accessible way of interacting with data. As we know, history is significantly influenced by the interactions of a few outstanding individuals. But how can we explore interactions among influential people of the past? Let's take an example of two scientists of the previous century, Albert Einstein and Erwin Schrödinger, and see whether they have met in person. Of course, we can type our query in Google. As usual, we got many hits. Let's search through the results to find the answer to our question. The most promising source seems to be the Wikipedia page of Erwin Schrödinger. But we do not want to read the whole Wikipedia article. Therefore, we search for Einstein on this page and try to read the corresponding sentences. It seems like the two scientists did a lot of correspondence, but it still does not become clear whether they have met in person. I am sure we will find our answer if we keep searching, but it takes multiple clicks and going through long articles. Let's ask the same question to our system called WizConnect that has a query interface. Well, it says that it found 3 events shared between the two people. As we know, world wars may not be the best meetup place for scientists, but they certainly met during Solvay conference in 1927. Clicking it pulls up more information, including a photograph where the two scientists can be seen together. The relationship graph in WizConnect also shows 3 shared events leading to the same photograph. Here we show the interface of our tool with an example query about 3 German soccer players. The interface consists of 5 connected views. The event timeline provides an overview of the overlapping events for all persons. We use a distinct color for each person and vertically separate the persons into individual timelines. Events are represented by thick colored lines. The shared events are visualized as multicolored lines. As many events can take place at the same time in a person's lifetime, the overlapping events for the same person are placed on separate stacked rows. The event map gives a geographical perspective of the places where the events took place. For instance, the FIFA World Cup of 2014, where 3 of these players participated, was held in Brazil. The relationship graph shows the connectivity of queried persons through shared events as a force-directed graph. It is easier to see that all 3 players played for FC Bayern. The chat interface serves as the entry point to the system and not only answers the questions but also lists down the shared events. Lastly, the detail panel brings up the corresponding Wikipedia article about an event on demand. For computing interactions among the historical figures, we rely on Event Knowledge Graph. Event Knowledge Graph incorporates event-centric information that is extracted from several other knowledge graphs and semi-structured sources such as Wikipedia and DBpedia. It contains about 1.3 million events. The shared events in a professional or personal context along with the individual life events are the basis of WizConnect. In WizConnect, the process begins with the user asking the query. We first try to identify the intent of the question as one of the predefined relation types, professional or personal. At the same time, we extract person names using named entity recognition. For each relation, we have a predefined template to produce an answer. To fetch the data from the event knowledge graph, we formulate a generic SPARQL query. This data is then visualized as coordinated multiple views. The visualization is independent of the query intent. Before generating the template-based answer, we use GPT-3 model to find the answer. The answers generated by GPT-3 are more precise. We will see that in a moment. If GPT-3 fails to answer the question, then we use template-based answers. WizConnect generates an explicit answer to the user query and provides list of shared events on the basis of which it answered the question. For instance, to the question, when did Marie Curie and Pierre Curie marry? It replied that they married in July 1895 and mentions 2 marriage events below. In the event timeline, users can verify this fact. They can further explore. For instance, their marriage lasted until 1906 as Pierre died this year. They both shared a Nobel Prize in Physics in 1903. And Pierre also received the Elliott-Cresson Medal posthumously. In WizConnect, we have employed template-based solution as well as GPT-3 to produce a textual answer. While the answers generated by templates can always be made consistent to the visual views, they are quite generic and sound artificial. On the other hand, GPT-3 produces precise answers, but they are unpredictable and hard to integrate with the other information coming from Knowledge Graph. This project was a close collaboration with the World KG project led by Elena Demidova. It resulted in a short paper at IEEE Wiz this year. The last part is about supporting authors who wish to create interactive data reports. Existing authoring tools do not support the interactive referencing of text and charts. Therefore, practitioners resort to manually coded solutions in programming frameworks. But these frameworks require huge effort and advanced programming skills to produce interactive content. Keeping this limitation in mind, we want to facilitate authoring of interactive data reports. We developed our tool according to the following design considerations. First, the tool should be able to automatically detect references. Second, the tool should only assist by suggesting potential references to the user and do not create them. This is important because any automatic reference detection system would result in false positives that may annoy the user. And finally, users should not be limited to what is suggested. Instead, they should be offered an intuitive interface with minimal interactions to construct their own references. Our interface is simple. It consists of a chart gallery and an editing panel. Charts can be added to the chart gallery by dragging and dropping them. Similarly, charts from the gallery can be added to the editor through drag and drop. As the user is typing, presence of potential references is communicated to the user through gray underlining. We use natural language processing to automatically detect references between text and charts. Users can preview them by hovering over the underlined text. Besides, users can select any portion of the text or type @ to trigger automatic suggestions. To manually construct a reference, users can select a portion of the text and activate the manual construction mode as shown. A reference can be constructed using one of the 2 available modes. The first one involves adding filters and specifying their values. Users can add multiple filters. Second is the direct manipulation mode. In this mode, users can use point selections or brush selections to select the visual marks of interest. The created references are underlined with blue color to differentiate them from suggestions. This way, users can continue to add more charts, text, and construct more references. We also evaluated the system through a user study. For the user study, we recruited 11 participants with diverse backgrounds. 6 undergrad and grad students, 4 visualization experts, and 1 user interface designer. The participants had to do 2 replication tasks and 1 creative task about authoring an interactive story. Here you see 2 selected stories that the participants created. The blue head symbol marks the references that were suggested by the system. It shows that participants got meaningful suggestions while writing. Other references were created by users using the manual construction interface. Small histograms show the distribution of participants' rating for various aspects of the system. The data was collected on a 5-point Likert scale, with 5 being the highest rating they could give. All participants agreed that the tool is intuitive and easy to use. In reference to the usefulness, one participant commented that she wasn't sure about a statement she was writing, but through interactive references, she could verify it. The participants had mixed feelings about automatic suggestions, as one participant summarized it that the automatic suggestions are good but not smart enough. Finally, all participants liked the manual reference construction interface. This project was done in collaboration with researchers from Harvard University and Boston College. It is accepted at IEEE Viz and will be published in Transactions on Visualization and Computer Graphics, one of the leading visualization journals for our community. That brings me to the end of this presentation. Thank you for listening.